Beginning from Daf Mesechta Kesuvos Daf Samach Dal. It begins 7 lines down at the top of the Yomid, but the Gemara continues the discussion of the previous Daf, which we were discussing the concept known as moredus. That if a woman is being difficult in the marriage, she's rebelling against her husband, whether it means from malacha, whether it means from tashmish, she's refusing to do things that a wife does for the husband. So we said that we penalize her. We had a whole discussion in the previous Daf. How do we do it? Do we do it a little bit at a time? Do we do it 4 weeks and then we cancel it, or like the top of our Amid, as it sounds like that we actually do it through a year, and after the year's over, then we go and we divorce her with like Ksuba. But that's what the halacha will continue to discuss regarding a woman who's rebellious and refused to go through with some of the marital requirements. Should correspond to Kazik and Cheskel Krishna is joining today's daf. Some of the things discussed in today's daf are the cases in which an arusa, she also has obligations to get married as an engaged woman, and the Shemeres Yavam, she also has marital obligations. She's waiting for Yibum from the Yavam, that they're similar regarding Igeris marriage. Igeris is the letter of rebellion, that we're putting out this letter against her, that she's refusing to consummate this relationship with her husband, and in which the Rusa and the Shemeres Yavam are different regarding Igeris marriage, that the case of Ukala is going to be different than the woman waiting for Yibum from the Yavam. The distinction between Knas Moredus and Knas Mored, meaning there's a difference between him and her. When he's refusing to do and she's refusing to do, the Gemara is going to discuss why would that be different. Halachas regarding Hamasha Sishta Deshlish, when the husband feeds his wife to a third party, which means she lives wherever in the villa and he's somewhere else and he has to feed her, certain obligations that he has. Some important terms of concepts are, today's daf are Yibum. Yibum is the halacha when the brother dies without any children, so that he marries her, his widow. Chalitza is if he doesn't want to, he goes and does like a biblical divorce called Chalitza. Now, there's two different versions of what's preferable. The Mishnah Sheni, the original version was a mitzvah yibum kodem with mitzvah chalitza. Obviously, the whole objective was to do yibum to keep alive the memory of his name, and only if you don't want to, then you do chalitza. The Mishnah Achrein actually held that no, very Sheni in the beginning of mitzvah, when they had in mind to do mitzvah, they were doing for noble pursuits. That the sister-in-law, he's doing it because he wants to keep his brother's name alive. That was the ideal. But now, actually, now no one does a mitzvah purpose. Everyone has an ego or bias or some reason why they're doing things. They actually said it's preferable to chalitza than yibum because you're not going to have the right intentions when you're marrying your sister-in-law. Now, we begin the current daf Samach Dal, 7 lines down at the top of the Yomid. So the Mishnah in previous daf had been discussing this concept of moredus al ba'al. If someone's rebellious against her husband, so he said, so we diminish from Ksuba, Shibit Dinar B'Shabbos. Every week we're going to take away 7 dinar from her Ksuba, which obviously compels her to stop because she sees her bank account is depleting from her Ksuba. Now, in the Brisa we had mentioned an arusa, Shemeres Yavam, we said achas this, achas that. We mentioned a bunch of cases that the halacha moredus applies, nida, chayla, and one of the cases was arusa, a girl that's engaged, if she's not willing to go ahead with the marriage, and Shemeres Yavam, which is also a woman who's waiting for Yibum from the Yavam, they're considered moredus by refusing to get married. Now, the Brisa made no distinction between arusa and the Shemeres Yavam. But that's why our Gemara begins 7 lines down. Shmuel actually does make a distinction between those two cases. He says, "Kaisin to get is meted al arusa." You're going to write a letter of rebellion against a girl who's engaged who refuses to get married. But in Kaisin to get is meted al Shemeres Yavam. But you're not going to write a letter of rebellion against the Shemeres Yavam, which is if her husband died, she's waiting for Yibum from the Yavam and she refused to go ahead with it. You don't write a letter of rebellion on her. That's what Shmuel said. Meisvei, that's what the Gemara asked in the Brisa in the previous daf. The Brisa had said, achas le'arusa, whether she's engaged, or if she's married. Even if she's a menstruating woman. Even if she's ill. Even if she's waiting for Yibum, the halacha is if she refuses to go ahead with this relationship, we write a letter of rebellion against her that she's doing something wrong. That refutes Shmuel, who said that the halacha of Igeris Mered does not apply to a Shemeres Yavam. Says Gemara Lekash is not difficult. Why not? Kan, the Bryce is talking about Shetava Hu, where he's petitioning, he wants to go ahead with the relationship, and she's rebelling. So then we're going to write a Geras Mered against her by Shemeres Yavam. Kan, the case of Shmuel that said by Shemeres Yavam, you're not going to write it, is Shetava He, where she's saying, let's go ahead with this relationship, and he's rebelling, and he's not doing Yibum. Then we do not write a letter of rebellion against him. Where do we find this idea? He says, if he is petitioning, he wants to go ahead with the relationship. We accede to his request, and we write a letter of rebellion against her. If she, however, is saying, let's go ahead with this, in this Kokan law, we don't pay attention to her, to write a letter of rebellion, to add on to her tiksuba, to blame the man for not going ahead with it. Which the Gemara is going to continue and explain. Why would that be? Why would we only side with the man petitioning the woman, not the woman petitioning the man? Because a woman is not commanded in Pir B'Rivin having children. So she doesn't have a claim as he does to say, let's go ahead with this. I want to have a relationship. I want to have children. But the Gemara, so that's how the Gemara is resolving the contradiction, the difficulty between Shmuel and the Brisa, saying that they're talking about different cases. Again, the Brisa is talking about where he's asking, yes, it's going to be a letter of rebellion against her. Shmuel's talking about when she's asking, then we're not going to write a letter of rebellion against him as a yavam for not being miyabim dishem and yavam. But the Gemara says, wait a second. But Shmuel, how you explain in this case of Shmuel that you're telling me you don't write a letter of rebellion by the case of Shmeres Yavam is b'shetavahi, because she's claiming, she's saying, let's go ahead. My husband died a few weeks ago. Let's do yibum. Let's go ahead and get this done. And he's not. So what are you saying? Because, like we'll explain, she has no rights. Problem is, the words don't make sense. The words were, you write a letter of rebellion on the arusa, le'arusa mibayale. He's differentiating between the case of an arusa and the Shmeres Yavam. Shmeres Yavam, when she claims, we don't listen to her. Arusa, we do listen to her. Then why is saying av arusa? It should say le'arusa, because it's writing for her against the husband. It's for her, not on her. So it's not difficult. Today, le'arusa, yeah, you have to read it. That it's for the arusa, not on the arusa. Okay, fine, you miyashiv the words. The problem is, now we don't understand the halachic discrepancy. Why are you saying that when it comes to the Shmeres Yavam, when her husband died without children, and her brother-in-law is just derelict, he's not paying attention, not doing yibum, not doing anything. The law that we don't write for her, he get his merit against her, the Yavam. Because the Minallah, we tell her, Zil, get away. You're not commanded on having children, like the Gemara says in Yom Beis. So you have no right to claim to say, I want to go get married, I want him to do yibum. Who cares? You don't have to have kids. You don't even have to get married. So Arusa Nami, the problem is then what do you do with the case of the girl who's engaged? Why over there by Arusa you said you do ready to get married and you change the words from Al Arusa to La Arusa for her against the Chassan? Why? Namely, you should tell her the same thing. Zil, go. Let him have, it's not commanded. What are you complaining about? You have no claims against the chassan. You don't have to get married anyway. So Ella, rather obviously, why don't you say that over there? Why do you say you could write a letter of rebellion against the chassan? Because B'ba Machmas Tay, she's come with a claim. What's her claim? Oh, because she says, no, Be'ina Chutshul Yada. I need to have a stick. I need to have a son to support me when I'm elderly that I can lean on for my hand. And I need a shovel for the burial, meaning I need somebody to bury me when they die. So she could have a claim, although she does not have a chiyuv of getting married, but she's saying I want children, I want a family, I want people to take care of me. So if that's the case, back to the question. So why did you say something about Shmeres Yavam? Also should have the same claim. So why are you differentiating between the Shmeres Yavam and the Arusa? It's the same thing. She doesn't have a mitzvah pir, but at the same time she has to claim, I want to have a family. So why do you differentiate between the Arusa and Shmeres Yavam? So Ella rather says the Gemara a different interpretation for this question that we were asking on Shmuel. Both cases of Shmuel and the Brisa are talking about where the man is claiming, not the woman. Because by the woman it wouldn't make sense to differentiate. The loy kasha, and it's still not difficult on Shmuel, which we had a contradiction. Okay, if they're both talking about tabahu, why does Shmuel say that we don't write a get us made on Shmeres Yavam and the Brisa says we do? Because the Brisa is talking about lachlitz. Bryce is talking about where he is saying, I want to do chalitza. And she's like, no, I don't want chalitza. I want to do yibum with you. So then we address his concern and we write a letter of rebellion on her that she's refusing to go ahead with the chalitza procedure. But Khan Shmuel is talking about liyabim, where he's petitioning saying, I want to do yibum. Let's go ahead. I want to marry you, my sister-in-law. And she's refusing to do yibum. Why is that a difference? Why, if he's petitioning for chalitza, will we write a letter of rebellion against her, but when she's petitioning for yibum, we will not write a letter of rebellion against her? What's the difference? She's refusing to go through with chalitza or yibum. The difference is, what do we consider as his right of a claim? Because Amar B'das Rabbi Yechon says, Tava lachlitz, if the man petition says, I want to do chalitza in this kakeling, we pay attention to him, we address his concern. But if he's claiming he wants to do yibum, ain't this kakeling. We don't address his concern because he's not intending it for the mitzvah purpose, which is like the second version of the Mishnah, which we tell him, go marry another woman. What do you need your sister-in-law for? It's really considered eishes ach. Really, it's a biblical prohibition to marry the brother's wife. It's only by mitzvah that you're doing. You're not even doing the mitzvah anyway. So therefore we say, go away, we're not paying attention to you. If you're trying to petition, say you want to do Yibum, we're not writing a letter rebelling against her because she doesn't have to do it. Chalitza, then he has to do it. But the Gemara says, wait a second, why? Why is it when you say when he's petitioning for Yibum? You said, we're not going to write a letter rebelling against her because we tell him, go marry another woman. What do you want from your sister-in-law for? So then the question is, lachlis namile. So then by Chalitza, you should also tell him, a man has no problem. He could have a zika with a yavama and go marry 10 women. So what's the problem with the fact that she refuses to do chalitza? Why are you writing letter rebellion against her if she's refusing to do chalitza? Just like you don't write letter rebellion against her when she's refusing to do yibum because you tell him go marry someone else when she's in it for a chalitza. Ella, so says the Gemara, I'll tell you why. Because he's going to say, no, since she's connected to me because she's refusing to do chalitza, look, they're not going to want to, no other father's going to want to give me their daughter because they're like, oh, he's already involved with a woman, with his sister-in-law. But then if that's the case here also, when he's claiming he wants to do yibum, he's like, since she's connected to me, they're not going to want to give me another one, and then you should address his concern. And you should write a letter of rebellion against her when she's refusing to do yibum. So what's the difference? How are you answering me the difficulty from the Bryce and Shmuel? Shmuel says, we don't write a Geras Meda on Shemeres Yavam. The Bryce says, we do write. And you're telling me, they're both Tavahu, they're both when he's making the claim, not when she's making the claim. But the difference is, the Bryce is talking about when he's claiming he wants chalitza, and Shmuel's talking about when he wants yibum. When he wants chalitza.
What's the difference than if he has two wives, not two daughters? We're talking about before Rabbi Gershon. So how does a person take the second wife? The father's never going to do it.
Right, and the Chachamim, who said he was with the father will? No one said it. It sounds like from the Gemara that it's not easy to get another shidduch when you're already engaged in another. It's not even he's already. He's in the middle of the process. He's dating, double dating, right? He's already has zika with this woman. He's already involved with her. He didn't even finish the process yet. So no one's going to want to get married to him. So if you hold it at manshach, if you don't hold it at smara, so then what's the difference? And if you do hold it, it's also the same thing. Meaning, how you differentiate between chalitza yibum? They're going to say agida bi. That's because that's why you're saying that by chalitza, that was the question originally. We said what chalitza was different than yibum. So you're saying because no one's going to want to. Why do I write a geras mera? No, because no one's going to want to get married to me. So then the same thing with the yibum. And if not, then chalitza should be the same thing as manashach. What's the difference in chalitza and yibum? Is the Gemara's question should be the same thing. So the Gemara comes up with a final approach how to answer the question of the Bryce and Shmuel. So it's both the variable. It's he's claiming against the Yavama, and it's also he's claiming he wants to do yibum, not chalitza. So how do we answer the difficulty? Both the Bryce and Shmuel are talking about he's claiming, and he's claiming he wants to do yibum. So why does the Bryce say that we're going to write a letter of rebellion against her, and Shmuel says not? It says more kasha because the Bryce is going like Kamishna Rishayna, like the first version of the Mishnah, which is that the preferable is the yibum, and therefore, if he's claiming he wants to do yibum, we're going to write a letter of rebellion against her. Shmuel's talking about Kamishna Acharena, and he's not Meir. That's why he's like a later version, which holds that actually no, you don't have any rights to claim yibum because we don't want you to do yibum. It's not like learn the Mishnah that tells us in Yevamis that mitzvah yibum kodemus mitzvah chalitza. Really, the mitzvah yibum comes before the mitzvah of chalitza because that's the whole purpose. The whole point is to keep your brother's memory alive. But that was only b'rishayin in the beginning, shem eskav l'shem mitzvah, where they had in mind they were doing for mitzvah l'shem shemayim. Now shem eskav l'shem mitzvah, where they're not having him up for the mitzvah purpose. He's looking at his sister-in-law. She's pretty. She's this. He's fun. This. They said, nah. Mitzvah chalitza kodemus the mitzvah yibum. The mitzvah of chalitza comes before the mitzvah yibum. We don't want you to do yibum. And if you're being zoykik, if you're coming and petitioning to the tabahu, they're saying, I'm asking my sister-in-law to do yibum. She's refusing. We're not writing a letter of rebellion against her, Sheshmo, because we don't even want you to do yibum. We want you to do chalitza. And the Bryce, however, was by the Mishnah Rishayna, which says we want yibum, and if she refuses to do it, we're going to write a letter of rebellion against her. That's the ultimate resolution of this contradiction from the Bryce on Shmuel, that although they're both talking about Tavahu and the Mitzvah Yibum, one's like the Mishnah Rishayna, that we wanted Yibum, and therefore he has a claim, and Shmuel is like the Mishnah Acharena, which we don't want Yibum, we want Chalitza, and therefore he does not have a claim. Now the Mishnah had said that we said that if Hamaredis Abala, if a woman rebels against her husband, and Hamaredis Ishta, if a man rebels against his wife, they're both punished with a knas. However, the difference is, by the woman, Hamaredis Abala, we said in the Mishnah, we diminish from Kesuvos Shiva dinar b'Shabbos, 7 dinar a week. So the Mishnah said a Masay who plays b'chulu. So we had a machlekes. Is it 7 dinarim a week? Is it 7 tarpeikin a week? So the Gemara says my tarpeikin. Rabbi Yehuda says it's 7 tarpeikin, not 7 dinarim. What's a tarpeikin? So Rabbi Shloimy says it's a stira. Just a technical explaining what it is. It's a provincial sella, which is the cheaper type of sella that is in the countryside. Now, Bakama stira, how much is this sella medina? How much is it a stira? It's palga de zuzah. It's half of a zuz tsuri. Tsur, their currency was more expensive, which was 6 silver ma. So it comes out a tarpag is going to be 3 ma because it's a half of a zuz. If a zuz is 6 ma, and this tarpag is an astira, which is a sel medina, which is half of the zuz, comes out the tarpag is going to be 3 silver ma. And that's how much Rabbi Yehuda held it's going to be every week. The Tana Machzim in the Brisa that says this. Rabbi Yehuda, he says shleish tarpeikin. There was 3 tarpeikin a week that you add on when he rebels. Shein tesha ma, that's 9 ma, because like we said, every tarpeik is 3 ma, because it's a half of a zuz, and the zuz is 6 ma, which is ma v'chetz v'chol yom. For every single day that the husband rebels, we add on to her kesuba a ma and a half every single day for the 6 days of the week. Shabbos he doesn't give her for his rebellion, as the Gemara is going to explain later on. So that comes out to the 9 ma, which is the 3 tarpoik, which Rabbi Yehuda said we have to add on when he rebels against her. Now the Gemara asks, he says, what's the difference? The man that Yavina lay Shabbos, when she rebels against him, we said that we take away from her ksuba 7 tarpeikim a week, which is tarpoik per day. So that means that we're giving him for Shabbos a diminishment of our ksuba. What's the difference? Her, we don't give her for his rebellion against her an added amount of money for Shabbos, only giving for the 6 days of the week and not for Shabbos. Says the Gemara, the difference is har by har, we're only diminishing. We're taking away something. So it doesn't look like as if he's gaining monetary income on Shabbos, which is a gzeira to make money on Shabbos, because it looks like you're doing business and rentals on Shabbos, which is prohibited because of Shabbos is a day for only Hashem. Now, Ihu, however, him, the Isufu Kamoisva, where for her, when he rebels, we're adding on to her Ksuba, as we continue on the base, Mechzik Iskar Shabbos, that looks like she's making income on Shabbos, which is prohibited because of Mekach Memker. Which Teresa asks, he says, what do you mean? But this is Schar Shabbos with what's called Havlah. Like, you know, when there's a babysitter on Shabbos, she can't really charge because that's Schar Shabbos. What do? Oh, she comes a little bit before Shabbos, she does a little bit after Shabbos, whatever it is, and we pay her for the whole weekend, and therefore that's called Havlah. It's absorbed in the payment that you're doing for the weekday. So here also, it's the same thing, because here it's going per week, 3 tarpeikim. So why are you saying it's a problem about Schar Shabbos if you would give her for Shabbos? It's Bahavlah. So it says, no, here it's prohibited because it's not really like Havlah, because here it's not the whole week. Here it's every day, it's a cell and a half. If let's say you would stop in the middle of the week, you wouldn't say it per week, you would go every day a certain amount, so therefore you are paying for Shabbos individually. So Taisa said that would be a problem about Schar Shabbos. That's why for her, we don't add on, but for him we do, because for him it's just taking away, we're not really adding on anything. But then the Gemara says the very important gender inequality question. Says, why is it when he rebels, we only give her a half of a tarpik a day? When she rebels, she has to give a whole tarpik. Why is it that we're more stringent when the woman rebels than the husband? So Malay says to him, he said, go out and learn a lesson from the marketplace of the harlots. Go to Amsterdam, go to a place where they're hiring people for inappropriate uses. It's me. Who's hiring who? It's the man that's usually looking for the services of a woman. Obviously, his pain of not having intimacy is more than that of the woman, and therefore, when she rebels against his tashmish, is more painful than him rebelling against her, and therefore we're going to add on more for him than taking away meaning we're going to take away more from her than adding on the ksuba when he doesn't give her what she needs. Or another interpretation is a man anatomically, his desire, his anatomy of desire is on the outside, which his erection is recognizable, and it's something that's disgraceful and embarrassing for him. And the woman's desire is in the inside. anatomically you don't see anything for her desire, so for some reason that's a reason to say that like Mazgana, it's something his distress is recognizable, and therefore his pain is going to be more. He's going to get more money gain than she's going to lose more in her ksuba than he's going to have to add on to her ksuba because of the lack of business. Now, if you take a look at the next Mishnah, continuing this theme regarding the obligations that the husband has to the wife. So the Mishnah tells us if, let's say, they have a long distance relationship. She lives in one country, he lives in another place. So if someone's providing for his wife through a third party, he has this caretaker that gives her food, and the husband he's not really there with her. So he's always flying out, he's always somewhere else. So he should not diminish for her per week from the following amounts. So he should give her 2 kav of wheat, or from 4 kav of barley, which he makes a comment. This is which he wants to explain what does the statement mean. No one would set this amount of barley, Rabbi Shloimy Schwartzberg. The one that gave this teaching was Rabbi Shloimy because he's near to Edom, and therefore he said that you're going to give 4 kav of barley or in place of 2 kav of wheat. But the Mishnah continues, he has to give her, it's like a whole grocery list of things that the husband has to give her per week. He gives her half a chatzikav kitness, half a kav of beans, chatzit loig shemen, half a loig of oil. He's got to know this is like going shopping, and he gets this, delivers it to her, for her to have a kav of gregers, a kav of dried figs, oy mana dvela. Now, dvela is actually similar. They're pressed figs that are like in a round cake. The reason why I'm saying it's a mana because that's actually sold by weight and not by measurement. So therefore it's a mana of dvela in contrast to a kav of gregers. Now, if he doesn't have this, then he goes and sets for her in the equivalent. You get these tickets, from the government or whatever to buy this thing. If you don't have this, the equivalent, then you get something else. Moreover, the nice lamita, he gives her a bed, mapets. He gives her, it's like a mat that's softer than machzelas. But he also gives her machzelas, which is a little bit of a harder mat. And b'nais lekipa, he gives her a head covering, l'reisha for her head, once a year. V'chagur l'masneha, and a belt for her waist. Now regarding shoes, that's mimoyed l'moyed. That every single Yom Tiv, from the Shalosh Regalim, he has to buy her a new pair of shoes. Now you know why the closet is so full of shoes, that you have more shoes than clothing that you're buying for her. And Mekem Shel Chamishim Zuz. Also vessels that are, meaning the like garments and this and that, of 50 zuz, Mishal L'Shanam, from year to year, meaning annually, this is what he has to give her. Now, moreover, regarding the garments the clothing that he buys for her, he does not give her, he doesn't give her new clothing in the summer months because new clothing is harder in the summer because they're very warm. It's better in the winter when you need the warmth. And also, you don't give her the worn out clothing in the winter when it's thoroughbred and it's not going to cover her. Now, in this kalim, what you do is you actually give her the new clothing. You're buying the new clothing in the winter, and she covers her with the worn out garments in the summer months. And the old worn out garments are hers, meaning even when he buys her new clothing, she gets to keep the old worn out clothing. She must explain what does she need the old shmatas for, what would she need that for. But the Mishnah continues, he also gives her a silver ma for her needs every single week for these small, odds and ends things that she needs. And he eats with her every Friday night, which is the night of Aina, of having intimacy. So again, this is an obligation that he has, although he's out of town, he's always flying out to Vegas and he comes back once a week, he's got to come back Friday night and spend time with her. Now, the main nation of law, if he does not give her the silver law for her, odds and ends needs, then Maisi Der Shalom, which actually is the one that Testament actually explained, it doesn't mean her handiwork, meaning her income is for her. Rather, it's Maisi Der. The added, besides her income, the 5, as we'll see what is her income right now, the mission is going to tell us, but whatever's beyond that is going to go to her, because he's not giving her the Mu'ah Kesef, although he is feeding her, as we're seeing in the Mishnah. So he gets the Maisitam, but he wouldn't get the excess of that. Now, the question is, Mahi Oisaloi, what exactly does she do for him? Meaning, what's the Maisidayim that when the husband's feeding her, as we just saw the whole grocery list over here that he's feeding her, what is when her income that goes to him? That's Mishkol Chamish Shlom, it's a weight of 5 slum of shesi, of the warp thread, which is when you have a loom. The warp thread is the thread that's longitudinal that goes on the loom, and then you have the arev, which is the weft thread that you weave in the latitude of those threads. So if you take the shesi, now what's significant about the shesi? Shesi is actually harder to spin, double that of the arev. So that's the weight of that thread in Yehuda, shein eses slum begalil, which is actually the worth of 10 slum in the Galil, because the weight of Yehuda was double that of the Galil. Or the same thing is really mishkal eses slum of Eir Yehuda, which again, because then you need to have the weight of 10 slum of the weft thread in Yehuda. Shein esem slum begalil, which would be 20 slum in the Galil again, because in Yehuda it was the weight was double that of the weight of in Galil. Moreover, continues the Mishnah, if she was a nursing woman, we diminish the amount that she has to give from her earnings, which we just described right now, to her husband. And actually, we actually add on, says with government programs for the natal, the post natal, women that they give her this extra food. We see the Mishnah saying that you add on to her food and you diminish the amount of work she has to do, which she gets time off from work. Now, when we say all these halachas are only by Anish Rabbi Yisrael, this was the minimum by a pauper in the Jewish people. This is the minimum he has to give for his wife. But someone that's honorable, everything goes according to his honor. If he's from the upper class, he's got to give accordingly to his wife. Now, the Gemara asks, we're going to the opening case of our Mishnah. We said the first item we mentioned on the grocery list was he cannot give her less than 2 kav of wheat to his wife per week. Now we're gonna have a very, very technical conversation right now, so you have to, it's one of those hot cup type of Gemaras. My name is Nina. It says the Gemara, who is the Talmud of Mishnah that says that you give 2 kav of wheat a week? It says the Gemara, that's usually the wording that the Gemara says when, like, whatever opinions we know of, our Mishnah seems to be not like that. Because now, we learned the Mishnah that says Erevin. So once we bring up Erevin, we're a little bit in troubled waters. It says the Mishnah in Erevin, B'kama shi'urei. What's the measurement of an Erev Techumen? What's an Erev Techumen? An Erev Techumen is you have a Shabbos residence, you can walk 2,000 amas wherever it is. Let's say you want to walk 4,000 amas, so you take an Erev, you put the peanut butter, the 2,000 amas away from your Shabbos residence, that becomes your Shabbos residence, you go another 2,000 amas from there. Now, how much food is 2 meals worth? Says how much is the Shabbos residence to the meal? Says the Tanakama. It's 2 meals worth. Every single person that wants to walk to that simcha, that you got to walk out of the tchum, you got to have 2 meals worth. The way we do with peanut butter, because it's, as we learned in Erevin, that's how much peanut butter you would use for those people. But whatever it is, that item of food has to be that 2 people would use, that person would use 2 meals worth of that item for his 2 meals on Shabbos, which is the basic 2 meals on Shabbos. Now, what type of meals are we talking about that you have 2 meals worth in the Erev? So it's actually machlokes. It says we're talking about how much food you would eat on a weekday and not on Shabbos. That's how much bread you should have over there. Rabbi Yehuda says the opposite. It says no, the Shabbos v'loy l'chol. You have the amount of bread you eat on Shabbos for 2 meals and not weekday. Now it says the Mishnah, actually both of them are intended to be more lenient. How is that? So like Rashi brings from the Gemara over there that Remeir used to eat on Shabbos more bread than he would eat in the weekday. And why would he eat more bread on Shabbos? Because the dips. Everyone knows, we're full already, we had so much dip already. It's like, I prepared so much food. It's not fair, you always eat too much dip. But everyone eats a lot of bread. So therefore, he said, it's 2 meals worth of bread on weekday. Who even washes? I always make ritzei already, and if I wash during the week, or who, right? Because you don't usually eat bread. Right? So he said that's how much bread is a weekday, which is more lenient. You eat less bread in the weekday meal. Now Rabbi Yehuda actually, he ate more bread in the weekday than on Shabbos. Why? Because on Shabbos he had kala, he had whatever, he had liver, he had so much other food, not filling up on bread. So therefore, again, it was just they were both being lenient. Each one ate bread more either on Shabbos or on the weekday. Fine. Now this is the more very sophisticated part, so this is the hot cup part. And this is what we're going to try to extrapolate to see who our Mishnah is like. The next 2 opinions are the opinions that we said that our Mishnah is not like them. And they're qualifying, what are these 2 meals worth of bread? He gives a set amount to tell you exactly how much 2 meals worth of bread you need to have by that Erev. He says it's a kikar, it's a loaf of bread, which is 2 meals worth. A loaf of bread has 2 meals worth. A half a loaf is 1 meal. A whole loaf is 2 meals worth. Now, what type of loaf? What do you mean? I go to the bakery, you tell a husband, do me a favor, buy the Erev bread. What do I get this? With the egg one, do I get the large one, the extra? I don't know how much. So he tell you exactly how much it is, what type of loaf. It's a loaf of bread, halakuach bepunjin, that you bought with a punjin. A punjin is a type of coin. When you buy, ma'arba sa'in b'sala. What does that mean, the punjin? The punjin depends what? Inflation, right? How do I know a quarter? A quarter, how much bread can I get for a quarter? Depends when. Depends on inflation. The Talmud is for all time. So how do I know how much that's going to be? It's going to be if 4 saw of flour, of bread, you could buy for a selah, that's going to be, that loaf, if you bought that loaf with this punyan, that's going to be 2 meals worth. Okay. Now, the assumption is that is a half a kav. Why? So Rashi explains. A selah is 48 punyan. How do we know a selah is 48 punyan? Because 6 ma of kesef, 6 silver ma, is a dinner, and a ma are 2 punyan. So it comes out that you have 12 punyans for a dinner. Now, 4 dinner are a selah. Comes out that 48 punyan is a selah. That's on the currency side, on the money side. Now, regarding the food item side, 4 sa'in is 24 kavan, which comes out, it's 48 half a kavan. So it comes out, according to Rabbi Yechanan, that a half a kav, which is 1/48 of this 4 sa, is going to be 2 meals worth, which is bought for a punyan, which is actually 12 eggs worth of food. So that's what we're thinking right now, that it's a half a kav, that's 2 meals worth. Again, that's the bread, the loaf of bread you're buying for punyan, which is 2 meals. Rabbi Yochanan is describing when you buy it for punyan and you could get 4 sa for a selah, that calculation is 1/48. That is a half a kav of the 4 sa. So we see that 2 meals worth is going to be seemingly a half a kav. Okay, Shimon Eimer, he says no, 2 meals worth is actually shtei yodas l'kikar. It's actually 2/3 of a loaf, not a whole loaf. 2/3 of a loaf will be 2 meals worth. Misholish kikaris l'kav. When you get 3 loaves of a kav, meaning each loaf is 1/3 of a kav, comes out that a kav is 9 meals worth. And you get 3 meals in every loaf, and you get 3 loaves for a kav, comes out that a full loaf is 1/3 of a kav, and 2/3 of it is 2 meals worth. That would be the Erev, which is 2/3 of that loaf. Okay, period. Now, once we're introducing the Mishnah, this is unrelated, but the Mishnah continues just to describe, we spoke about a whole loaf. A whole loaf, at least according to the first opinion, is 2 meals. According to Reb Shimon, it's actually 2/3 of the loaf is actually 2 meals worth. But be that as it may, we spoke about a whole loaf, now we're talking about a half a loaf, a quarter of a loaf, an eighth of a loaf. We're going to continue going to describe other halachas related to this loaf. Chetzia, half of the loaf, is lebeis hamenuga. Is halacha, let's say someone is delaying himself in a house that has a nega. The amount of time, what's called, we always use this terminology, we say, kedei achilas pras. Everyone knows that terminology. We know it for Pesach, we know it for the bracha achrona. Kedei achilas pras. What does it mean? It means the amount of time of eating a broken piece. It means a half of a loaf. That's 1 meal's worth of food. If you steer that amount of time, between 4 and 9 minutes, whatever it is, so that's going to contaminate his garments. Because the pasuk says, doesn't mean if you necessarily eat in the house, you have to wash your garments. It means if you wait in the house, the amount of time of eating, a meal's worth, that's what the Brisa teaches Torah's carrying them, then you're going to have to wash your garments. Now Rashi points out, although regarding the Suda of the Erev, we said, according to Rabbi Shimon, that there's actually 3 meals worth in the kikar. So why is everyone saying, including Rabbi Shimon now, that half of that loaf is going to be 1 meal's worth? That's not true. If you tell me 2/3 of the loaf is 2 meals, how much is 1 meal? Not half. It's going to be 1/3. So why is everyone saying it's a half? So Rashi explains No, because really a loaf of bread only has 2 medium-sized meals inside of it. By Erev, Rabbi Shimon was lenient, and he said it very, very precise, very, very truncated, very, very, very mitzumtzum. And that's what we're saying, that achilas pras, that it means the amount of time it takes to eat one meal, according to everyone, we're evaluating as a half a loaf, not as a third of a loaf. It's only by Erev that Rabbi Shimon was lenient, saying that 1 meal's worth will be a third. Now, continues the Mishnah, the chatzi chetzia, and half of the half, which is a quarter of the loaf, is liftless a gvia. It will invalidate a person's body. What does that mean to say? If someone eats a measurement of a half of a pras, half of a half, which is a quarter of the loaf, of tummy foods, his body is going to become invalidated from eating truma until he tables, which that's actually 2 eggs worth. Because a loaf of bread that has 3 loaves for a kav is 8 eggs worth. Because a kav is 24 eggs, which is 4 logan, and half of the loaf, which is 8, is going to make, that half is going to make 4 eggs worth, and half of the half, which is what we're talking about, is going to make it into 2 eggs worth. Continues the Mishnah, the chatzi, and half of the half of the half, which is the 1/8, that halach is going to be like kabel tumas oichlin, that something has a tumah of food items, which that we know as what we always call this as a kebeya. We always talk about the tumas oichlin that has a share of kebeya. That's the measurement we just described. That's 1 egg's worth. Okay. Now the Gemara, however, concludes the question. Says the Gemara, you just quoted me Mishnah Erevin, Mani, who's the town of our Mishnah, that says how much do you have to give to your wife a week when you're providing her the grocery list? You said you don't give less than 2 kav of wheat. Our Mishnah is not like either one of the 2 opinions we described. Why? Who he says, how much are 2 meals worth? 2 meals worth is how much? Is a half of a kav. That's what we stressed when we were saying from Rashi, when he was describing what an Erev is, right? What's an Erev? An Erev is 2 meals worth for your Shabbos residence. He said that it's a loaf of bread that you buy with a punyan when 4 saw is a seller. So we described, that means to say a 48th of that, which is the punyan, is going to get you how much? 2 meals worth of that loaf of bread is going to be a half of a kav. The problem is, if 2 meals worth is a half of a kav, comes out that Tamni 8 meals Havyan. How much is 2 kav a week going to get you? It's going to get you 8 meals worth. Because of, that's a half of a kav times 4. Right? I'm saying it times 8, meaning you're going to get, meaning if you take a half of a kav and you want to get the 2 kav, that's times 4, right? That's going to give you 4 times 2. If a half of a kav is 2 meals worth, because that's how much you told me is the loaf of bread they use for the Erev. And the Erev is 2 meals worth. You're giving her a week worth of bread. That's how much wheat you're giving her. That's only going to give you a half of a kav is 2 meals, times 4 is 2 kav, that's 8 meals. The problem is, she has 14 meals a week. 7 days times 2 meals a day is 14. You're giving me only 8 meals worth. The Mishnah's not like him. And the Edom Shimon, the Vidhi, the Mishnah like Rabbi Shimon, who he said, what? Yeah, okay, yeah. And according to Rabbi Shimon, that he says that there's 9 meals in a kav, because he said that every loaf of bread has 3 meals worth. And you have 3 loaves of bread that equal a kav. So that means to say that a kav is giving you 9 meals. So according to him, that we're giving her 2 kav of wheat, how much meals worth are we giving her? Tamni srei havin. It's going to be 18 meals worth. Because a kav has 9 meals in it. And we're giving her 2 kav. But she only needs 14. Why are we giving her 2 kav? It's not the minimum amount. Why would we be charging him to give his wife such a big grocery list? So our mission is not like Rabbi Yochanan Bereka, and it's not like Rabbi Shimon. That was the question. Again, very complex calculation, but that was the question about our Mishnah. When we're telling you the grocery list, seems not to be. It's too much. It's too little according to Rabbi Yochanan Bereka, and it's too much according to Rabbi Shimon. So he's going, no, not Rabbi Yochanan Bereka. It's our Mishnah like Rabbi Yochanan Bereka, who said that you're purchasing the loaf of bread for a punyan. But there's another calculation, you don't realize how commerce works. Because then Rav Chizah says, he says, Seimehen Shlish, you have to detract a third, which is really a 50% increase, lechenveni, for the storekeeper. He's got to make money also. In other words, Rabbi Yochanan was not evaluating with a pure half a kav. He was talking about a loaf of bread that you bought, and that's actually was his words. He says, "Halakuach." If you're taking a punyan and you're buying it from the storekeeper, yes, the storekeeper bought 4 saw of wheat for a selah. He went to the farm. He went to the wholesaler. He bought 4 saw for a selah, but guess what? He's got to make money also. He's charging a third for his effort. Comes out that a half a kav, which is 3 meals, only 2 of those meals are being sold with the punyan that you're giving. Because the third meal's worth, he's making profit. So you're not getting that as a consumer. So Hanam here also. I see tilsa. You take another third, which is really an extrinsic third, and shadi alayu, and you have to add on to that, which means to say, you're going to get another third, because when you're buying from the store, you're losing a third. When you're giving her 2 kav of wheat, she's not going to get the same thing when she buys in the store. As a homeowner, when she's going to take the wheat and make bread out of it, she's going to get another third that we didn't count, because you lose that when you buy from the store owner. So it's not just 8 anymore. Add on another third, which is going to take you plus 4, 8, a third of 8, a half, which is really an external third. And from the sum total is a third of 12 is going to be 4, which is half of 8. Add that on, and she can get 12 meals worth. So wait a second, Akati is still the 2 kavan of the Mishnah, Tartis Rabbi, they're still only getting you 12 meals worth. She's got 14 meals to go. Says the Gemara, no, you forgot. We mentioned the Mishnah. Remember we said in the Mishnah, he's coming with the Friday night meal. He went to Glatma. He's coming Friday night with the meal. He has his, anyways. He needs his pcha. He needs his liver. So says the Gemara, okay, fine. This makes sense according to the one that says, which the machlekes in the sugi later on. What does it mean he comes to eat with her Friday night? It means, according to the one that says it means literally eating the meal. Fine, that makes sense. He's bringing the Friday night meal. But according to the one that says, was meint essen? Essen meint nicht essen. Essen meint zusammen. So Michael, what are you going to say? He's not bringing the meal. He's not doing it. He ate with his friends, whatever. He's coming later at 11 o'clock at night. He's not coming at 7 o'clock. So it doesn't get her. And also, but like more of a twice haben. Even if he's coming with the Friday night meal, that's only getting me 13 meals. What's with the 14th meal? What's she doing Shabbos by day? Tell Rav the Gemara has a different approach. Kedamar of Chizda, there's a different teaching of Chizda. It actually says, not that you take away a third that he's charging, which is a 50% increase. The storekeeper actually gives a 100% increase. You have to take away half that the storekeeper is charging for his effort. Oh, so here also you take half of the 8, which is another 100% increase, it's half of the total amount. After you're adding on, you're going to get the 16. If you take away half of the 16 is 8, which is a 100% increase of the 8, and the Shadillah you add on to the 8, when you buy from a storekeeper, he's actually charging you double the amount that it costs for him. That's a 100% increase. Half of the sum total is really what you're losing when you're buying from a retailer. That's why we all buy wholesale or below wholesale, whatever it is, because he's charging you. It's a double of what he bought it for $1. He's selling it for $2. So therefore, when you're giving her 2 kav of wheat, if you would get that from a store, you'd be getting only 1 kav worth. So if we're saying that 8 meals, you're getting 8 meals from 2 kavim, according to the calculation of a half a kav when you buy a loaf of bread from the store, it's really double that. So it's not 8 meals worth, actually 16 meals worth. Because the storekeeper, which we would calculate halakuch b'punyan, is actually, you're losing half the amount. So the Gemara says, wait a second. You just quoted me 2 teachings of Chizda. One teaching told me that he charges, you take away a third, because he charges a third of it. And one teaching you said you could take away a half, because he's not 50% increase, he does 100% increase. How do you resolve the contradiction? So the Gemara, look, Ash, that's not difficult, because Rav Chizda was talking about different contexts. When did he say that he takes away a third of the value? Is ba'asad di'abitzivi. If someone sells wheat to a retailer to make loaves of bread and to sell it in the market, in a place where he gives the storekeeper the wood to fuel the baking, so then the retailer doesn't have to have so much overhead. He's only going to charge a third for his effort. When did Rav Chizda say he's charging half of the amount? Is ba'asad di'abitzivi. they don't provide him wood. So then he's going to say, I'm holding on to half the profit because it's diminishing the amount of loaves for the expense of heating the ovens. I have to cover that cost. So therefore, then he's going to charge 100% more, not a 50% more. So essentially, our Mishnah was talking about that case when you're buying for punyan was when 100% more, not 30% more. And therefore, when we say that 2 kavans is going to give you 8 meals worth because a half a kav is 2 meals worth, was only when you buy from the store. But when you're giving the woman 2 kavan of wheat herself, she's going to get double that amount. She's going to get 16 meals worth. So the Gemara says, wait a second, you're still back to our question. So that's 16 meals, not 14 meals. So the Gemara, no. So the Gemara says, come on. So the Gemara is asking a question. So you tell me Chidka? You tell me that the Mishnah anonymously saying, our Mishnah saying like Chidka, which Adas Yachal, which is not Mistaber to say like him, that he says, Arba Sudas Chaim Odin Lechem Shabbos, he says you actually have to eat 4 meals on Shabbos. Now, those who are actually machma like this, Chidka, what? Ramach, this, the Chidka, the 4 meals, whatever. So you tell me that's our Mishnah's like him, that's why you have to have 16 meals? So you want to fill him and the keeper says going like Rabbanan. Because Shabbos you have to have Shalosh Shudish, 3 meals, which takes you up to 15 meals. And what's 16? That's for the Archi Parchi. You have to have for people that are coming and going. You have to have for them. That's why you have to have 16 meals worth. So now that you're saying Archi Parchi, I felt Timid Rabbi Shimon. Then you could even say the Mishnah like Rabbi Shimon, who he said that actually it comes out because he says that 9 meals are in 1 kav, so 2 kav is 18 meals. Shkoyach. You can say like Rabbi Shimon. Because Lirabanan, if he holds a Rabbanan that says that how many meals you have on Shabbos, so Del plus Archi Parchi. Although you only need 15 meals, why is he saying 18? Of course, 3 meals for the Archi Parchi. You have so many guests that come into your house. Del Tarti la Archi Parchi. You take away 2 for the Archi Parchi. And again, then you could even say the Mishnah like Reb Shimon. So you could choose now between Rebbe and Rebbe or like Reb Shimon's actually like either one of them. Now, just to finish off, he said in the Mishnah, Amar Rabbi Yossi says like pasuk sa'id and b'chulu. Says this that the Mishnah was saying that you have 2 kav of wheat or the equivalent of 4 kav of barley. You come with your WIC cards and they say, okay, you could either get this cereal or get that cereal, either 2 kav of wheat or 4 kav of barley. So he says, he commented, Rabbi Yossi says, nah, the only one that says barley is Rabbi Shmuel, who was near Edom. So the Gemara says, what, Edom with the Afti somewhat, only in Edom they eat barley, but everywhere else they don't eat barley? What does that mean? It says, what he meant to say was, like, no one would tell you that you get double of barley for the amount of wheat. Rabbi Shmuel, who lived near Edom, because the Edomid barley was very inferior. So since it was so inferior, we're going to give you such a discrepancy. We'll give you either 2 kav of wheat or 4 kav of barley because it was such inferior quality. That's why he was saying that it's going to be, but yeah, nothing to do with that. Everywhere you have barley for the chalk, but it's just how inferior it's going to be, so it's going to be doubly enough. Thank you to anything.